Hello and welcome to the Inoculation. Today we're going to look at some recent news around disinformation. My name's Eva von Schaper and my co-host is Diva Repichkaite.
Hi listeners.
And I have a bit of a surprise for you.
What is that?
I was looking through some recent news and I decided I was a machine to summarize the articles. So I asked ChatGPT, which is AI software, to summarize some articles. And if you're interested in ChatGPT, we did a whole episode on that earlier last year. It's quite interesting to go in to listen to that. People were thinking about ChatGPT last year, how there was really not an inkling of how it could be released. Everybody can use ChatGPT now.
So what do you have for us today, Eva?
So the first one I looked at was an article in Wired. And this is, I opened up ChatGPT and basically copy and paste it. And I said, I typed in, summarize this. And what I received is, and this is really verbatim, an article from Wired UK describes Twitter's efforts to combat the spread of false information and vaccine conspiracy theories on its platform. The company has implemented measures such as adding labels to tweets containing misinformation, partnering with health organizations to provide accurate information, and cracking down on accounts that repeatedly spread false information. Twitter also intends to reduce the visibility of tweets that contain harmful information, but still allow users to access and discuss them. Despite these efforts, conspiracy theories continue to spread on the platform.
Right. It's clear what I can expect to find there, but so far I'm waiting to hear what's new.
Exactly. So I think the summary is actually, it's good and it's correct, but it's missing a lot of what we would call the gist of the article.
Exactly. And if we send something similar to our editors, we would be out of job in no time.
If you compare the headline, the Wired headline is, Twitter is a megaphone for sudden death vaccine conspiracy. This pulls me in, and this is a lot more interesting than what ChatGPT gave me. And also, the Wired article starts off by saying, with an anecdote, when British radio DJ Tom Gow passed away suddenly during a broadcast in 2022, his friend and colleague James Hazel barely had time to mourn. And they continue, anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists seized upon Gow's death and turned his Twitter and Instagram feeds into a store of information and abuse.
That's right.
Maybe one thing I just said, then I went back, had ChatGPT another article. And this was from the DFR lab, and it was how China funds foreign influence campaigns. And so the first, what was really interesting in this experience for me was that using OpenAI feels so normal that, I see what I typed. I said, please summarize. So I think, am I speaking to a human or a machine? So I said, please summarize this link. I didn't even copy and paste. I just added the link. This is what OpenAI gave me. The article, How China Funds Foreign Influence Campaigns, describes how China is funding and influencing foreign media, organizations, and politicians through various means, including state-owned companies, foundations, and propaganda outlets. The aim of these campaigns is to promote China's image and interests abroad and to counter negative media coverage. The article highlights the need for increased transparency and accountability in order to counteract China's influence efforts. Because I had wised up to ChatGPT's ways, I said, please give me some examples from the articles. And so the output is state-owned companies funding media outlets and organizations. China Daily, for instance, has been identified as a state-run media organization that has been funding foreign outlets and organizations to promote a positive image of China abroad. The article mentions that China has established foundations and think tanks in several countries to fund research and activities that promote China's interests. Propaganda outlets, state-run media outlets, such as Xinhua News Agency and China Central Television, are used to spread China's views and influence foreign media. And influence on politicians. The article cites cases of Chinese companies and organizations funding foreign politicians to promote their interests and secure liberal policies. So this I already thought was a lot better.
So in fact, it's not replacing reading the article. It's maybe we could use it to help us to decide whether to read the article, because it tells us what we can expect to find, but it doesn't really replicate the enjoyment, if you will, of reading the article.
Not only the enjoyment, I do think it fails to convey some of the feeling that these articles bring across. So yes, the summary is correct, but it's very, very neutral and it sounds very bland. Third article, Finland has been successful in teaching its students about misinformation in a survey of 41 European countries for resilience against misinformation. Contributing factors to Finland's success include a strong education system, a high trusting government, a highly respected teaching profession, and free college education. In contrast, the US was not included in the survey, but other polls show that trust in news media is at a record low. So again, I think that the summary is correct.
Yeah, it sounds like an academic abstract, though, like an abstract of an academic paper.
Yes, it does sound really dry. And so for me, if I summarize an article, I think one of the most interesting things is the most succinct, the most interesting quotes. ChatGPT doesn't do that. And it also just leaves out some of the tidbits. For example, did you know that since Finnish is spoken by 5.4 million people, and articles containing falsehoods that are written by non-native speakers sometimes be easily identified because of grammatical or syntax errors?
And this is an important detail, which is also something that we see in the Baltics.
Those are the things that I found. And again, it's leaving out a lot of the examples and a lot of the things that would draw a reader into an article that would allow me as a reader to remember the article and to really be drawn in. And I think that's really a big drawback that GPT has.
Right. So, yes, I think it's quite clear that please continue reading news articles. Don't switch to AI just yet. You will fall asleep very soon if you do. I
think also the one thing where GPT failed, I asked ChatGPT to analyze an academic article. And so I just copy it, like as with the first, I copy and pasted the address, please summarize. And the response I got was, I'm sorry, but I cannot summarize the content of as it appears to be an error page on the pub platform. So it wasn't an error page. It just, for some reason, ChatGPT couldn't work on it. What I did was I went back and I copy and pasted the whole article, which was quite long, but not horrendously long. And I asked ChatGPT to summarize again. But then I just got the reply that the article was too long, and ChatGPT just basically refused to summarize, refused to work on it.
Yeah, but this is where something like an automatic summary would be very useful, because if we're not academics, we would really benefit from a summary that kind of gives us the gist. Whereas for news articles, we would like to enjoy the story. We can generate a sort of academic abstract style summary with ChatGPT from news articles, but not from academic articles where we really need it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this is actually this was with one article. I'm not sure that this would ChatGPT would never be able to summarize an article. It's totally possible that I made a mistake while inputting the article. Yes, it has its limitations, but it's an incredible tool.
And again, we need to remind ourselves and our listeners that we're working in English, which is the most popular language for these things in the world. So it will take a while until we can get a kind of good service for news summaries in other languages.
I think you're right. What did you find especially interesting this week?
This week, and as I'm kind of easing into my fellowship in Florence and where the European Digital Media Observatory is also based, I read their reports about the Died Suddenly conspiracy, which was also covered in the Wired article that you talked about. And so they mobilized their fact-checking network in different countries, and they found how this conspiracy circulates in many languages. So they found traces of it in Spain, in the Baltic states, Scandinavia, and Greece, and France, and so on, many others. So it was adapted and localized by local disinformation actors.
Okay.
Then I've also been checking some Twitter hashtags that Twitter was, strangely enough, pushing onto my feed. And I found some interesting overlaps of climate change denialism and anti-vaccination conspiracies. So really elaborately drawn images of this kind of dystopia where children are being pulled away by police with syringes and things like that. So again, we're seeing another iteration of overlaps between these two movements. But that's just a Twitter trend.
I actually wanted to know: is this hashtag that's been in use for a long time, or is it just trending now? So is it a new hashtag that's trending, or is it just something that's somehow moved to the forefront?
It's been around, but it's coming back sometimes and then staying quiet for a bit. But it seems to be the hashtag that that this kind of conspiracists are engaging every time there's something that can further their views. So every time there's a new policy or they want to react to something, or for example, the leaders are discussing new climate policies, this is when they pull out the hashtag.
Okay. And is there anything else that you thought was interesting?
So Nature recently published a paper based on a study about vaccine hesitancy in 23 countries. Those countries are sampled from different continents, and the survey was carried out last year, and now the results have been processed, and here they are. So they looked into COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy or acceptance. So they kind of all the survey responses, they created a sort of binary, whether people are hesitant or accepting and taking up the vaccination. They separately asked about boosters, and they separately asked about children's vaccination. So what they found was that in 8 of these 23 countries, so in 1/3 of these countries, hesitancy has increased.
Mm-hmm.
And a very interesting population is vaccinated individuals who are hesitant about booster doses, and that's 1 in 8 survey participants. They say that almost 2 in 5 respondents paid less attention to new information about COVID-19.
Did they give a reason? Did they say why people more hesitant about vaccinations or booster doses?
So they gave similar reasons to the ones that the articles you brought in today have cited. So distrust in government is a big one. If people don't trust their government and their health authorities, then they're quite likely to refuse vaccination. But also there is the perception that the new variants are less severe and that the new treatments can actually deal with the disease without the need of vaccination. So when this theory or this statement takes hold, populations are less likely to take the vaccines when offered. And what I also found interesting is that when I looked at the countries that we have covered before, over a third of the respondents they surveyed in Poland were hesitant, so vaccine hesitant. So that's a large number for a European country. And also close to a third of vaccinated German parents are hesitant to get vaccines for their children.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty in Germany about children's vaccinations, in part because the head of German vaccination officials said on TV that without any scientific reason, said he would not have his own child vaccinated. It was very unhelpful and it was very confusing for a lot of people because I think a week or two after that, the new guidelines were to vaccinate children. So that was not, I think that left a lot of people with confusion as to vaccinating children. And I think what's also true, we've talked about this, a lot of parents in Germany who themselves are vaccinated use vaccination for childhood diseases such as measles. So that just might be very Germany specific.
Yeah, and it definitely deserves further unpacking. And then maybe to end on a slightly funny, but it's not funny at all for the businesses affected note. So in Lithuania, there is a new conspiracy in town, and it relates to insects in food. So it's not about those situations where an insect accidentally ends up in your flour and then is baked into bread, but actually the conspiracy says that now that certain insect products are allowed to be used in food in the EU, if they are clearly labeled, conspiracy theorists took it all the way to claim that actually they are already being used and they are not being labeled, and our bread and cheese and whatnot are full of cricket flour. And then to make it more interesting, they said that, our food is not only full of insect flour, but it's also full of heavy metals.
Okay, so this is definitely a different direction. What I think is interesting here, and maybe we need to look at that in another episode, is that fear of insects and insect infestation is something that is recurring in right-wing conspiracy theories, and also ivermectin, which some people completely wrongly claim is against COVID, is in fact used in horses, little insects called mites. So I think I wonder if that's a coincidence or if this is truly part of, a bigger school of conspiracy thought.
Oh, wow. This is actually really fascinating, and I never made this connection, or I've never seen this particular connection made, but the expert interviewed by the Lithuanian Public Radio, LRT, actually said that healthy living communities are prone to believing in conspiracies because they are very concerned about eating clean and purity in all senses of the word. So people who are all about eating clean and living clean are fearful of being tainted. you found a critical juncture here that the fear of insect contamination, the fear of heavy metal contamination goes hand in hand in those groups.
Yes, and also this idea of purity as such is something that we also repeatedly have come across.
Okay, so this is what we wanted to explore in the news today, and we will go back to the question of artificial intelligence and the question of purity.
So we look forward to next episode, which is going to be in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Bye.